One.
Hi, my name is Caleb Mulford, and I'm researching helmets, whether they should be a law or a choice, whether it should be enforcement for our liability or is it invasion of our privacy. So far, there are 23 states in the U.S. that have strict helmet laws, and the ones you see in yellow are the ones that have the helmet laws. The ones you see in orange, including Washington, are the ones where there's certain cities or counties that have their own enforced helmet laws. So, in Spokane, anybody that's on a wheeled vehicle must be the ones, or must wear a helmet on, including a bike or skateboard or rollerblades. And if you look in Florida, the person who is 16 or younger must wear a helmet. These are the two most common forms of the city laws that you will find. There's not much other fluctuation for what types of laws they have. Code. Helmets, they have to pass a certain guideline or strength or certification. So you can't wear your Gladiator helmet out riding a bike. That doesn't count as a helmet. And the important part of the helmet is actually the buckle. There's an example of a buckle there on the screen. And you may think that a buckle really isn't that important, but if you fall, it's what's actually going to keep the helmet on your head. If the buckle is weak, it's going to snap, and the helmet turns into just something that falls off and is pointless. So each year, more than 500,000 cyclists get into a collision or injury, or get injuries that send them to a hospital. Above 1,500 people die each year due to cycling-related injuries, and above 70% of them were not wearing helmets. So that's a big part of the group that could be prevented for wearing a helmet. Cost of head injuries without helmets is $5.8 billion. That's including death fees, including life insurance, whether it be concussion testing, going into surgery to fix your brain, anything that is related to your head injury or cycling injury. Cost of helmets. This is a big thing that people worry about, that there shouldn't be a helmet law because not everybody can afford a helmet. The helmets I have up here range from anywhere from $80 to $100. This is my cross-country race helmet. So it's less aggressive and it's just a half shell. It gives more protection in the back, you see, in the plastic than it would in this one. This one, you see, its outer shell looks like carbon, but it's just a manufactured look-alike. And it has less protection in the back, so the plastic doesn't go around the back. And the plastic is a really important part to the helmet. It adds extra protection and keeps the foam in check if you do crash. And if you look on all these helmets, they have a harder outer shell than that one, and including this one, which is a full-face helmet, which is most often used for downhill riding or motorcycle riding. And the reason it has a jaw bar in the front is in case you go over the bars, if you hit a rock or a tree, it causes less damage to your face if you have that there. And there's a bigger risk in downhill than there is in cross country, and so that is why that one's a half shell and that one's a full face. And this one is my snowboarding helmet, and coolness factor can be this visor that adds to what's on it. And that actually helps a lot because if you go face first into something, say a tree or a rail in the park, it gives you that little extra protection if you fall on your face, which has actually saved me a couple of times. And so the downsides to helmet laws discourage cycling by making it appear dangerous. If you see laws that you need to wear helmets everywhere, then people are like, okay, well then there's a big harm if I'm not wearing a helmet, I'm going to die. Because it makes it sound like cycling is a dangerous thing when there are a lot of people. In Spokane, cycling is a big part of the community, so really important.
Just push enter.
There you go. Helmet laws have not worked in Australia. People in the U.S. compare ourselves to a lot of countries where they're better than us. The human nature is to be better than everybody, so if we see something working for somebody, we want to make it better than they are. So in Australia, the reason that they haven't had as bad of injuries is a lot more people don't drive. There's a lot less cars per city or cars per area in Australia. So there's more cyclists, which means that people are more aware of all the riders, which goes back to helmet laws seem discouraging. That means that people wouldn't want to wear helmets, which means people wouldn't want to ride, which means people will be less aware of the cyclist around them. So they get used to just driving their normal car past. And then also another country that does it is New Zealand, I believe. And they have really high cycling rates to where everybody rides on bikes, and Hungary does that. And so cyclists are just like a car on the road. People treat them as a car and not as a pedestrian. Why wouldn't you wear a helmet? Helmets prevent 49 to 56% of fatal injuries. They also prevent 68 to 80% of non-fatal TBIs. They prevent 65 of other head injuries. So if you take all that little percent is very minor. And yes, people barely get hit while they're on a bike. There's a low chance of you getting hit, but when you do get hit, there's a big car and a little cyclist. And it's not the car that actually causes the injury, it's when you hit the ground. And so that's why a helmet is important, and you'd rather have a more chance of living than dying. So if you need another thing to help you persuade yourself for a helmet, is would you rather spend $18, which is the average price of a normal cheap helmet at Walmart, or would you rather spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair yourself, and then you'll never be the same? You may never be able to ride a bike in your life again. And so would you rather risk looking cool for 20 minutes while getting somewhere on your bike, or would you rather risk losing your life? So no helmet, there's going to be a lot more damage caused. There's going to be a lot more problems in the community. There's going to be outrages of who's going to be in fault. Now, if you're not wearing a helmet, then if somebody hits you and you die, that person gets charged with manslaughter. That's not their fault. If you ran out in front of them on your bike, you die, and now they're suffering with the consequences because you didn't put a helmet on. So it's not necessarily the money fact, but the emotional aspect as well. That's what can happen if you don't wear a helmet. So that's why I strongly want people to wear helmets, and I want the U.S. to make it a national law that people, at least the 16 and under, but mostly everybody that's on a bicycle or a wheeled vehicle must wear a helmet.
Well, how did the stimulus materials inspire your original research? That's the original article that you were given when you were looking for a topic for this project.
So you're asking about the ones that he gives. Well, if you look at sports, these can be considered sports enhancement. I read multiple articles on people get less fearful of stuff, especially in downhill, so they can push their limits more. If you compare that to steroids, people are lifting more, and so when they're playing football, if they want to have a sports enhancement, they're going to take steroids to make them stronger, run faster, be a better athlete. If I'm riding my bike down a hill, I'd rather be in a helmet because then I can go faster and I don't have to worry about what if I fall. So I look at it as comparing it, that helps it as a sports enhancement to the sport.
Okay, what might be the real world implications or consequences of your findings?
Well, this can help save the government money because then they won't have to put out money for health care and other stuff like that. If everybody wore a helmet on their bike, helmet industry would actually be one of the leading industries in the U.S., which would bring in more jobs and a bigger market for other stuff. Because nobody's selling a non-helmet thing. You're either selling a helmet or you're not. So that would bring in more jobs if we did have helmet laws. Then it would cost the government money to hire more cops and more patrolmen to be looking for people without helmets because they would have to spend their days writing tickets for people on bikes. I personally talked to a cop and asked him, why don't you enforce the helmet law in Spokane since there's a law? Like, why have a law if you won't enforce it? And he goes, we would need roughly 50 more policemen on duty just to find people without helmets. And each ticket is only worth about $50. So the state's only getting $50 back when they're putting in $40,000 or more a year to somebody to drive around just to look for these people. And if they were to do that with the number of police officers that we have today, they would have to spend every day every second of every day looking for people riding without helmets. And there'd be a lot more bad guys running around doing things that are more important that